Welcome to this River Cities Network presentation, and thanks again to Laura for coming here to Leiden to give it. Usually we have an online-only presentation series, and now we realize why that's much easier. But today is hybrid, so thank you to those in the room here in Leiden, and thank you to those online who are following this. So let's get started. We've had a little bit of a delay now, but Laura, again, thank you for giving what I'm sure is going to be a very interesting presentation. We met last month in Aswan in Egypt, where we already were privileged to hear a little bit about your mapping techniques and your very interesting work in Colombia. So we're going to hear much more about it today. I'm going to give a very brief introduction, and then I hope you can tell us more about yourself. So Laura Giraldo-Martínez is actually affiliated with a River Commons program at Wageningen University here in the Netherlands, but her research is in Colombia. You're a philosopher, among other things. You are many different things, I think. You also use techniques of critical geography, political ecology, memory peace studies, many different things, which I think are all very interesting and will come together in what you're going to tell us. Let's get started. Usually the presentation is around 45 minutes.
Okay.
And then we have some time for questions, both here in the room and online, and my colleagues will help to pay attention to the screen.
Okay.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon or good morning if somebody is in the other, in Colombia especially. A lot of the things that we are doing with Entre Ríos, which I will talk a little bit more about later, are also physical. So I have some publications here that we can also explore in person. It's important also to frame like the research in the Riverhood and River Commons project, because we share also with the River City Network a lot of questions about river care, river conservation, ultimately also what is a river, what is the scale to study a river, how you can or we can understand interconnectivity between bodies of water, not only like the mainstream, but also the relationship with the tributaries, with the underwater, with the rain, with the different ecosystems. So I think we share this, as Arti also plays like the across borders, but also like in the in-between. And Entre Ríos means that. Entre Ríos means in between rivers or in between rivers. This is an art-led platform based in Latin America, and I'm kind of in between these two projects, the River Commons project and the Entre Ríos Collective, which is now an NGO that we create also to kind of continue doing the work we have been doing. So for me, it's yes, a pleasure to be here. Right now, I'm writing the introduction of my thesis, so I'm like, yes, I'm very close. But it's good to go back and to remember and kind of update also this material, especially the whole process to create the How to Care for a River publication, which we conducted during 2023 mostly, and then we disseminate and we share in different spaces during 2024 and 2025, and also during this year. So to motivate also this dialogue with you, I placed this question about how to care for a river, which is like the question that has run through more than these 4 years of researching and living in front of the river. I was telling you that I live like here. This is the upper basin of the Bogotá River in Colombia. I was also born and raised there in front of the same river, almost without knowing it, because it's very hard to see the river when you are in the city. It's an enclosed river, it's a canalized river. And even if you are like in front of the mainstream, it's very difficult to understand like this, like the geography of the river. So for me, this research has been also like a way of come back, of returning to the river in both physically and symbolic ways. So this is also the name of a publication that we did last year, Cómo volver al río, how to return to the river, to understand how, yes, which kind of relationship we can build again around water in this in this area. So in this photo, I want to highlight like one of the key features of the river's upper basin, which is like the agricultural frontier in Villa Pinzón. This is a municipality really close to the river's source. And I am suggesting this photo for mainly 3 reasons. First, to show like some of the relevant socio-ecosystems through which the Bogotá River flows, in this case, the páramo, which is like the high mountain wetland system in these tropical regions, the high Andean forest, and the first like agricultural crops, in this case, potato and onion crops. And it is a river that not only flows through different ecosystems, but also have different meanings, different land and water uses, different altitudes from 3,300 meters above the sea to 100 when it reached the Magdalena River. So also crosses a lot of different measurements for its protection, conservation, and management. Also, the second thing about this photo is to open the conversation to something that we share in the River Commons and Riverhood project. So Kata is a witness of this, and is like, okay, what is the scale to study a river? We are more than 18 PhDs in this process, and we all have different answers to this. So it's really interesting to always keep in mind, okay, this is the whole watershed. Does include, yes, the groundwater, it includes people, in which ways, which actors, which kind of knowledge also are involved when you are like giving a meaning of a river. So in this sense, it scales and it's part like of the whole journey of the presentation today, are very relevant because they are not only ecological, or they are not only like administrative or geographical, but also ecological, political, social, communitarian, and they propose also meanings of the river, and in that way they also organize life around them and the way we relate to them. And the third thing that I found really interesting about this photo, which I took like during the first fieldwork that I did in 2023, and of course in conversation also with your own notions of river that we can talk later, is what implies to cartographically represent the borders and the boundaries of these river scales. In this case, we will talk about a river that is highly protected through a lot of conservation measurements in the headwaters, but only a few kilometers in between 8 and 11 kilometers downstream, the river transforming one of the most polluted rivers in Colombia and even the world. So you can feel the contrast really quickly. And also that's why the borders between life and death in the river or of the river, we also played like a key aspect in the whole reflection. So in dialogue with these 3 points, we proposed like the main question of the paper that I wrote with 2 of my co-supervisors, which it was like the base I draw for this presentation too, which is why and with what interested we to protect the watershed like so extremely, which implies economic resources, institutional efforts, a lot of alliances, international cooperation, and so on. If downstreams, all those efforts dissolve until the point that the river has been declared dead. So to explore this, I will be more fast. This was like the first part, which is always like, okay. I propose like these 3 main parts. First, like the river in context, but also in between this mapping concept and the ecoscalar fix concept, which I found also really interesting for this conversation. The second one is the Rio Bogotá project, where we propose like a mapping as a collaborative process of researching and creation. And the third one, a brief reflection about commoning and enlivening rivers across different, not only scales, but also networks. So I will primarily show some photographs, also some video clips and drawings of like field drawings. like that I took or draw during these 4 years of encounters with the river. So this is like the watershed of the Bogotá River. On the left side of the map, like here, you can see in green like all the high mountain system of the Cordillera de los Andes, the Andean mountain system, we share with Ecuador, Peru, and Venezuela, and part of Costa Rica. And this kind of ecosystem is very important for the water cycle, the water storage, and also regulation in the tropics. The Bogotá River is born in a páramo, which is the name of this ecosystem, the Huacheneque páramo, which is like, in addition of being highly important, also as water in the water world, is also a territory inhabited by peasant families for generations. So in Colombia, the first administrative division of the territory is departments. The Bogotá River crosses from north to south, the whole department, and in the middle is Bogotá, which is the capital of Colombia. So it's a rural, urban, and then rural river again, which is also very important to understand, like the management figures that it has for its protection or conservation. In the upper basin, the riverbed has highly transformed by potato crops mainly, cattle, tanneries, flower industry, and mining. In the middle basin, the river reached the super intense urbanization of the flat savanna or savanna de Bogotá, and the whole wetland network. And this is also a territory with high quality of soil, so a lot of the farming and monocrops are located here. And after the city, this is Bogotá city, the river reached the big Tequendama Falls, the Salto de Tequendama, which is located here. We will see a photo of this place, which is also, it is really important also to understand the geography of this river. And in the lowlands, the river carries like all the pollution of the city and also the pollution of the high mountains. We are approximately 10 millions of inhabitants in the river and municipalities, and we all need water every day. This is a water that supplies the 30% of the water of Bogotá. And not only that, but most of the cities and the municipalities doesn't treat the domestic waters before they reach the river. So that's why the pollution is like the big thing here. With Entre Ríos, we have been working in these 6 places, in the upper basin, in Villapinzón, in Suezca, and in Sesquilé, in the middle one, in Bogotá, Soacha, and in the Tequendama Falls. And yes, like this is the main map to present the river, but I will present in this presentation 3 more maps. So for the paper, we analyze almost 52 maps and cartographies of the Bogotá River to explore the meanings of the rivers that are behind like the representation, and also with the question of what kinds of knowledge are legitimized in the process, but also how borders and limits and water bodies are drawn on them. Also with this notion that maps are not only discursive or narrative, but also performative, and they have like different social and political uses, and likewise tools that shape the territory and our relationship with it. So this first one, I think is a really important map. It has made by the Environmental Authority of the Bogotá River region, and it presents like the river through human and like a very anthropocentric point of view of the river. Human consumption, the dark blue. The part that is protected is the light blue, that is like the headwater region. And then the agricultural use and the energy generation in orange. So although like this map is from 2011, it clearly showed like a trend that we saw in most of the maps produced in Colombia regarding this river, marked by anthropocentric and economic centric approach of the river. and yes, link it with the urbanization process and also the expansion of the cities and the flood control. So this is also, of course, have a lot of implications, like the canalization of the main course, the deforestation of the most riparian forest around the watershed, the pollution, and also the loss and denial of traditional peasant knowledge and indigenous knowledge that is also here in this amphibious territory. Another way to address like this conversation is in a more historical way. You can see, of course, like how was the land before the Spanish arrival, and you can see like, yes, how the water was everywhere. It was like a big body of water. So this second map is like a zooming of this exact area that we were looking in the other one, and show also like a big tendency, which is like protecting the páramo is like the priority, even if it's economical and ecological importance for water supplies, overlooking like the local and the riverine perspectives, and even so like the river. There is no like river in the map, and we also notice that in most of the maps, the river is not even there, because they're really focusing in the ecological value of the páramos. And when the páramo, like if the river crosses like this frontier, it kind of disappears in this kind of perspective. No? So of course there are some questions that are there, like why to protect the páramo so extensively if as soon as the river crosses this border, it begins to transform so drastically, but also, and is like the main core of the Entre Ríos project, how we can create or dynamize also more connections, connectivity, ecological connectivity, social, political connections between the upper, the middle, and the lower basin. So that's why this notion of ecoscalar fix has been like key to understand the ways in which governance schemes reorganize decision-making at particular scales that are often justified like as naturals to gain and to also consolidate like political and economical control over specific resources. And we use ecoscalar fix as a concept tool, as I show here, for analyzing how and where forms of decision-making power are established by reorganizing governance according to supposedly natural river scales. So dominant cartography, mostly made by public sector and private sector, arrange these ecoscalar fixes to kind of create these boundaries while also depoliticizing like the river interventions. And the third map that I want to show you is like the collaborative mapping process with Entre Ríos for the discussion. And this is where like counter cartography and collaborative mapping have allowed us to open the process of collecting collective knowledge creation and reflection. So planning field work in at the end of 2021, I met this collective, the Entre Ríos, which is like an art-led platform. And since its foundation in 2019, which was developed by Lisa Blackmore Academic Research Path, the question has been like this one, like how we can find more embodied aesthetic collaborative transdisciplinary methods to open us to this awareness of the interconnectivity of bodies of water, not only non-human bodies of water, but also ourselves as one of them, and how we can reconnect each other through different creative methods. Also, there is like at the heart of Entre Ríos is like the curatorial practice and also the artistic research and the interdisciplinary approaches to mapping in this case. So at least for now, we supported by institutional funding by University of Essex and also the River Commons project. And we are developing like a kind of process-driven process, yes, like a process-driven process when we yes, like plan the first phase of the process. This phase informed the next one, and so on. So today I want to talk about, like in the rest of the presentation, about the like 4 main phases of this research. So this is like the website, but the river project, Bogotá River project, is like one of the most biggest projects of Entre Ríos, and we have like this question at the heart of the process, and which is, yes, I already say something about this, but what is ultimately a river, and also how we can relate to rivers like in different ways in order to kind of enact, yes, ecological integrity in this interdependence. So for this discussion, maps also goes beyond these like blue lines in a paper, and open the questions about how to represent rivers and how to make visible multiple connectivities and also entanglements. These are like project core objectives and values. The first one is co-creating knowledge with river and communities. The second one is fostering also embodied affective and political ties with the river. The third one is centering historically, ecologically, and symbolically resonant sites that invite physical and symbolic returns to the river. The next one is also this question and big question about the connectivity between knowledge, scientific knowledge, artistic practice, and indigenous knowledge in this case too, and also how we can, through these different objectives, can foster also network building among the actors that join the encounters or the spaces. So this is more than like a result, the Cómo Cuidar un Río, which is like the main publication. We consider mapping as a process of curatorial, methodological, interdisciplinary, and collaborative process. And I will talk about these 4 phases. The first one is like the fieldwork phase, the first fieldwork phase, where we included some river walks through the upper and the middle basin, and also with informal conversations to know closely the river caretakers and the river territory also. The second phase includes like a communal culinary gathering with 16 river guardians, where we met in the Salto del Tequendama. We call it El Piquete de Río. The third phase, in the third phase, we return to these key sites, and we conduct field work again with workshops, in-depth interviews, informal conversations, and also visiting to community gardens, and finally the editorial process. So this is the Salto del Tequendama, the Tequendama Falls. So we kind of start planning this January, February field work, drawing in each curator. We are 4. We are Lisa, Diego Piñeros, Juliana, and myself, like previous research and curatorial practice. And we visited citizens initiatives and care initiatives in these 6 places that I show you in the first map: Villa Pinzón, Suezca, Sesquile, Bogotá, El Chaquito, and Tequendama Falls. And even if like all the care practices are different in terms of scale, also context, age, position, on official policies, these river stewards hold a common commitment to care, and also they, in their daily life, develop like these different activities that go from ecological restoration, ecotourism, indigenous education, local heritage research, and also advocacy, wetland protection, and organic food production, like in this photo. I will show you some photos as context. This is the, where the Bogotá River is born. Also, we involve the community water drinking systems, the community aqueducts, of this region, peace and market networks, plant nurseries, and these I like photos to show you a little bit about the geography and also the people who care for the river. This is one of the, yes, is the where the Bogotá River is reached the maximum level of pollution in El Charquito. But this is also the Charquito where a lot of like the community initiatives are planting differently, are eating differently. And at the end of this first research trip, which I show you through these photos, we reflected on what we had learned and start to brainstorm ways of gathering and connecting the river caretaker we had met. So with this like initial step, aim to seek potential affinities, we propose the Piquete de Río Bogotá as an exchange, as a way to exchange these common purposes that we had in common. So in the initial conversation, we imagined like a communal lunch here in the terrace of the Casa Museo El Salto de Tequendama, which is in front of the Tequendama Fall. And we were inspired, we did some archival work, and we were inspired by the river family gatherings that they used to have in the last decade. Piquetes were like a tradition of informal and formal too, riverside picnics where people share like local products. And so we thought like the Tequendama Fall offered like a perfect site for such an event. So we met here in April of 2023, and the purpose was to create like an immersion of the river through food. We call it like eating the river as a way to show that the river is also alive and the river is full of life in different ways, not only, yes, it's not only a dead river, but it's full of life in the daily practices. And we invited Cristina Consuegra, which is anthropologist, and the artist Carlos Alfonso to research, design, and cook a menu for the piquete. So we drawing on their already research into native species and ecology and diversity and biodiversity. They create this menu, which is also like a way of mapping the river through food and to represent also life through native species. See this video also in the digital platform. We have 3 main videos. This one, because we kind of place the communal lunch also as a performative encounter. So we recorded everything with all the consents. And you can see all the journey of the ingredients and the recipes that we shared that day. And yes, it's a very different way to understand like the geography of this river. So in these photos, you can see some of the participants who are like environmental activists, educators, ecologists, artists, and some of the food that we share. And yes, like each ingredient had like a connection with the different territories of the caretakers and where they were from. This is like a photo of the whole team. And when we were there, this is also a small video, but where you can see like in perspective where we located. Toasting the gathering, one of the river leaders, Carlos Cuervo, mentioned like starting from today, as you can read, we will begin to tell a common story. Today marks the first day of this new history of all the stories that have not yet been told. So with this input and this insight, we decided together like, okay, which is the best way to represent the things that we are doing daily, but also in a way that we can connect to each other. So that's why pues, mapping was like the proposal. So after the piquete, we went back. This is Nubian. This is a low one. But this, I don't know why, but this is like a, yes, like a really short video. So during after the piquete, we come back to the same places, to the 6 places where we did our first field work. And we did some workshop that we call pulses of the river as a way of measuring water quality and also to thinking together about creative ways to represent the rivers and water. So I only going to show you some of the photos of the workshop. There is also a video called Pulses of the River in the platform where we explored like the whole idea of the pulses. But we had like different workshops, and also we joined the daily activities of care in each part, and we were collecting drawings, field notes, photographs, and also proposing different ways to imagine the water and the river representation. We work with local schools also and with different groups. And finally, well, the editorial process. During the whole field work, we were like actively recording the process in different ways, as I just mentioned, and also with sound, also video documentation, the collection of traditional recipes and archival research. And this kind of multimodal approach enabled us to collect different ways to not only like meaning the river, but also the ways we document, which is also different when you are trying to understand which knowledge is involved in these care practices. And then between the editorial team, we collectively kind of digest and all these recordings and photo and field notes that we harvested like in every meeting to create like the publication. So we start to redrawing also. These are drawings of Carlos Alfonso, the ingredients, the food that we share, the native species that we also identify. And we start to think, okay, which is like the best shape to understand the territory. Not only like an static map, but more that as a dynamic approach also to physical and printed publication. So this is the physical one. For those online, you can scan this QR and you can download the publication. It's in Spanish, but we also have like a translation available that we can send to you through email. And we propose this way to kind of assemble the river through 6 main places. So I think is that because we are here, we can do it like in the paper. So each place that I have been mentioned is like a porter, and you have 2 sides. So in one side we have the kind of a photo of the health of the river and also who is caring for the river. For example, this is in the Chaquito, which la Escuela de Pensamiento Ambiental y de Paz en Chaquito, la environmental school, is working through the wetland restoration, and also they are growing food in the middle of the wetland, and they have a pedagogical program that is connecting all the wetland defense and advocacy. And the pulses, which I also just mentioned, there are like a way to understand water quality, but in a narrative way. So in this side of the poster, you can you see like the story of each place. And in this side, we propose like beyond these blue lines, understand like the relations. So it's like you can do like a zoom in, like these 2 minutes, to address like different topics that are connected. In this case, it's mainly food, like the native species that they are growing, and also the way they are taking care of the small streams that are in the wetlands. And you can, I'm going to put this here. You can start to kind of, it was a puzzle to see the connection between them. So in this case, which is Suba, in Suba there is a Muisca indigenous community. So this is about the memory also of the way they used to live with water and with the wetlands in this part of Bogotá. Is in Bogotá. And so you can read the story here, and then you can like zoom in the connections that define and mean like the river here. So this is like the. So I think the most important thing in this case, in this mapping process, was to kind of create ways of represent relationality also, like some main concept, and also and also interconnectivity, because these places are not geographically necessarily connected. It's not okay. They are not connected by administrative boundaries, but they are connected in the way that they share also a lot of care practices and ways to understand the river. This is the Tequendama Falls, where they are doing also a really interesting work around the museum and the heritage that is connected with the architectural site of this house, and also doing a lot of like restoration of the forest that surrounded the falls. And in the other side, you can like explore the story of the Granja Ecológica Porvenir, which is the initiative that works there, and the history of the museum too. And this is where the Bogotá River is born, Villa Pinzón, which is the páramo ecosystem, and also the big emphasis is in the water cycle, the hydrosocial cycle that allows this river to burn like every day and across different practices. And then in the other side is the story of the community of La Merced, which is like the first village that is located there, and a community-based tourism project that also is connected to the river care in this part. So we propose like a kind of ensemble way of connect the river, and also with the possibility of expand in different ways. So, for example, in next phases of the project, we want to continue this same process, adding new pieces to complement and kind of enrich this notion of river. So this was the creation process. Then we did like a final dissemination event with all the river caretakers. And during 2024 and 2026, we did a lot of workshops, and we are still doing in local schools, in public libraries, in different pedagogical spaces to enrich like the process itself. So it has been like an ongoing process and an ongoing also reflexivity. And that's why we also have like not only the map as product, but also is connected with a broader network of products that are all in this website. because yes, the most important thing is to open always like the methodologies and these encounters to connect to each other through the basins to understand also the ways we can connect as inhabitants of the river with this river that has been declared dead, but also that is really fragmented, not only by like the ecological boundaries, but also the way we manage it and the way we create like these governance schemes. So this is also only to end because we considering like the powerful input of maps and the way they fix also boundaries between ecological dimensions and geographical dimensions. We want to propose like this mapping as more as a dynamic and open process, and also as a way to show these different interconnectivities that we can build together. So that's why we refer this as commoning, as a way of commoning. And also only to finish, I want to return just 1 minute to the beginning to connect precisely with networks, because like the River City network and also the River Commons, the Riverhood networks are also very important to kind of being in different scales at the same times, because sometimes you are doing field work and you are like really located in a really specific place. But then these exchanges and this possibility of mutual learning is also it allow us as researchers to travel like a lot of ideas also across the world. So this is like the main question of the Riverhood and the River Commons project. And it's about how we can connect like these different new water justice movements that create and reshape rivers around the world, mainly to build together approaches for a more equitable water governance. And we propose, well, we know, but the project proposed like these 4 different ways to understand the river. We are more than 18 PhDs working on river revitalization, in river restoration, river co-governance, with the umbrella of political ecology of water. And we are like in permanent dialogue between Latin America, Europe, Asia, and Africa. We are all from different backgrounds, different contexts, but we share like this aim of creating also methodologies and theory around river commons and the way we can connect through rivers also to mobilize others' ideas. So this is only to show like these open dialogues or papers as open dialogues to continue like the conversation. We also did like a mapping process with a fisherwoman woman. Her name is Maria. We did like this documentary, the Diary of Traveling Rivers, that you can see. These ones, this last one, Traveling Rivers Mapping Movements, it's about this process with Maria. Also the possibility not only to connect like the basin or one basin itself, but also this is about 4 rivers in Colombia and 2 rivers in Ecuador, and the way we can create like also bridges between contexts and countries. And thank you very much.